What's going on, Ravens fans? Welcome to an at-home, snowed-in edition of the Baltimore Ravens Rundown. My name is Joey Petersen. We got to talk about the major moves being made to this Baltimore Ravens coaching staff as Jesse Minter makes his first hire late last night. I'm going to break down who that is, why you should be excited, and then we're going to talk about a couple of staff departures from Baltimore all the way to the Big Apple following John Harbaugh to the New York Giants. So happy you guys are hanging out with me today. Hopefully, you guys are staying safe this weekend, staying warm. Hope you still have power, but we're going to be here at home all day bringing you content. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Also, make sure to go to chatsports.com/Minter to get our Minter is Coming hoodies and t-shirts. If you get them both, you get a $10 discount as well. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. All right, let's start with the hire. Jesse Minter makes his first coaching hire since hired as the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and he is bringing on Mike Mickens, defensive backs coach and pass game coordinator for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, to be the defensive backs coach for the Baltimore Ravens. And this is what is really, really cool, in my opinion, about having a coach that's had experience in the college game and in the professional game as well. Because Mike Mickens is coming over to do his same exact role that he was at Notre Dame. Pass game coordinator and defensive backs coach. And we talked a lot about Jesse Minter over the hiring process, and we said, yeah, the fact that he has so much college experience scares me a little bit in hiring an offensive coordinator, okay? And that's not done yet. Still going to talk about that a little bit at the end of today's video. But I don't think I did a good enough job of articulating the positives of somebody who's had as much experience in the college coaching game as well, because you're able to make hires like this because you've got connections like this. And I'm going to look at a coaching hire like this in a similar way that I look at things when covering the transfer portal for Tennessee, okay? Anytime Tennessee adds a player and that player's opposing fan base was devastated that they entered the portal in the first place, I feel decently good about that player coming to Tennessee. Okay, now I know that's not a foolproof concept. I know that does not mean, 1 + 1 = 2, that this guy is going to be a guaranteed stud. But the fact that a ton of Notre Dame fans, okay, across the country, online, on social media, the beat writers for the team are really, really upset that Mike Mickens is leaving for the Baltimore Ravens makes me believe that Jesse Minter just got an absolute stud to be your defensive backs coach and your pass game coordinator. And if you don't believe that he's a complete stud, I mean, look at the guys that he's worked with and developed kind of in his tenure as a coach in college football, right? He was at Cincinnati when Sauce Gardner was there, who went on to be a top 10 pick by the New York Jets and the Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. He spent 2 years, this is really cool, at Notre Dame with Kyle Hamilton and also with Alohi Gilman, which I think is something that is awesome, that Kyle Hamilton's going to have a guy coming in here like Mike Mickens, a guy he worked with in college, a guy who helped get him drafted, was a big reason that he ended up getting drafted and was a top 16, top 15 pick. He also worked with Xavier Watts, who was a top draft pick. Benjamin Morrison was a top draft pick this last year. And I think that's really, really special and really, really cool because you've still got a bunch of young defensive backs on your roster right now. I mean, think about it. You got TJ Tampa, Malachi Starks, and Nate Wiggins. Those 3 guys combined have 5 years of experience in the National Football League, okay? Malachi Starks just wrapped up his rookie season, and by all accounts, it was a good year, but I think a lot of us might have been expecting a little bit more out of Malachi Starks. Now, again, it's his rookie season. We're not going to count him out. I'm not close to doing that. But having a guy in here like Mike Mickens, who has a track record of working well with young defensive backs, I think is a great move by Minter, and I think it's going to, prove to really pay off and pay dividends. The two have worked together for a very, very long time. They originally, where it says, let me find their connection because it was a really, really cool connection. It actually goes back to to decades ago when Mickens was a defensive back for Cincinnati, All-American in 2007 and 2008, where Jesse Minter was serving just as a graduate assistant. And then when Jesse Minter went on to have his first defensive coordinator job at Indiana State, he hired Mickens to be his defensive assistant. So these two go back, multiple decades, tons of experience of those two guys working together. And so I think the first move on staff for Jesse Minter was a really, really good one. And I cannot wait to see kind of how this staff rounds itself out. Speaking of that, okay, let's talk about the offensive coordinator spot. We'll probably have more of an update on this later today. Kind of more specifically talking about the offensive coordinator spot for the entirety of our PM video. However, I do want to keep you up to date that Nate Scheelhaase has gone on with his second interview with the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if they've already concluded that or if they're doing it right now. I know for a fact that Cleveland flew all the way to Los Angeles today to meet with him. Of course, over there, they are interviewing him for their head coaching job, right? So if he gets the Cleveland Browns job, if he gets that gig, then he's got to take it, right? But just know that's a name that we've been discussing a decent bit to possibly be the offense coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. Diana Rossini reporting about a couple hours ago, Denver Broncos pass game coordinator Davis Webb will meet with the Raiders today in his second interview with Las Vegas. Webb is also expected to speak with the Buffalo Bills about their head coach vacancy as well. There's a lot of time left in those coaching searches in Las Vegas and in Buffalo. But just know that Scheelhaase and Davis Webb are two names that are being thrown around for Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinators, and they are being discussed and being interviewed to be head coaches of the Bills, the Raiders, and also of the Browns as well. So we'll keep you updated on that front. We talked a lot about offensive coordinator last week when it comes to Jesse Minter. Look, that is something that I kind of have split opinions on, right? I am not a massive Cliff Kingsbury or Joe Brady fan, but what Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Brady bring to the table that Davis Webb and Nate Scheelhaase wouldn't is that they wouldn't be first-time play callers, right? They wouldn't be first-time defensive or offensive coordinators. And I think that's beneficial. And I'll tell you why in just a couple of seconds because I just remembered. I got to tell you about our awesome sponsor of today's show, our friends over at Prize Picks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, just under 2 weeks away, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Missing your fantasy team? My league is already over, but with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 sports picks app. Guys, yesterday I absolutely crushed it on Prize Picks. I took the max discount of Sam Darnold. All he had to do was throw half a passing yard, paired that up with Matthew Stafford passing yards, and we had a really good day yesterday. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Links to this promo is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, back to the offensive coordinator discussion. Look, I talked about how this to me was an interesting topic because, yes, while I'm not a big fan of Cliff Kingsbury and Joe Brady, Cliff would be fine, Joe would be fine. I just wouldn't be over the moon about those guys. What they do bring to the table that the others don't is experience, okay? And you got to think about it, the fact that you've got a first-time head coach on staff who's also going to be calling plays defensively. You have a first-time defensive coordinator that's going to be on staff. I don't know how I feel about pairing that up with also a first-time, offensive play caller and just having a ton of first-time guys all on the sideline, especially for a team that can win a Super Bowl next year. Okay, I get it. It sounds dramatic, but I think we all believe it to be true. And so, like, if you believe that you can compete, I do think it would be beneficial for everybody, Minter included, to have some guys on that coaching staff that have experience, okay? So those are my thoughts about it. Additional Ravens coaching news before we get out of here. Chris Horton, Ravens special teams coordinator, is being hired by the Giants and John Harbaugh as their assistant head coach, special teams coordinator. Earlier, it was said Horton was going to be blocked by Baltimore for a lateral move, but he ends up with John Harbaugh in New York. Most likely, it got around being blocked because they added in the assistant head coach, special teams coordinator spot. I've got a couple of opinions about this. Look, I think at the end of the day, I'm not too upset about it because I'm about Jesse Minter getting Jesse Minter's guys in the building, okay? Only get the guys you want to be in there. I'm not a big fan of, inheriting people in this coaching staff because you didn't hire them, okay? Like, they were hired by the past guy. Get the guys you want in the building in the building. That's going to do it for today's show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back later today with another video, and then most likely going to be back in studio tomorrow. It's pretty icy here in Dallas, Texas. So I think the high today as well is like 20 degrees, but I'm not going to complain because I've got a cousin who lives in Baltimore, and he was giving me pictures of all the snow y'all got yesterday. So y'all got it worse than we do, but hey, we'll be keeping you updated down here in Dallas, Texas, all day long. So we'll see you next time.